don't think of yourself as a local developer in your country. Because let's say you're based in Singapore, you're based in Seoul, don't think of yourself as a Seoul-based developer trying to export to the world. The mindset we need to have is think of yourself as a global developer, right? That happens to be based in Singapore or happens to be based in Seoul.
안녕하세요. 2호의 태용입니다. 우리 2호 구독자분들이시라면 다들 바이브코딩에 미쳐 계실 거라고 생각하는데요. 이제 저도 하루에 최소 6시간 넘게 바이브 코딩하느라 정신이 없습니다. 개발자는 참 힘든 직업이었구나 이런 생각도 하고 바이브 코딩 없이 개발을 다들 어떻게 하셨지? 이런 생각도 들면서 좀 이런 말씀 드리기 좀 조심스럽긴 한데 사스가 죽었다 이런 말도 좀 와닿아요. 죽었다라는 말보다는 이제 잘 변화를 꾀해야 된다 이렇게 표현하는 게 맞겠지만 왜 그러냐면 필요한 내부용 사스를 전부 다 만들어서 쓰고 있기 때문이에요. 이런 와중에 이분이 생각이 나더라고요. 제가 몇 년 전에 싱가포르에서 만나뵀던 분인데 그때는 APAC의 스타트업 이코시스템을 총괄하시는 분이셨어요. 지금은 APAC의 개발자 이코시스템을 만드는 총괄을 하고 계시는데요. 아시아의 AI 시대는 어떤 일이 일어나고 있는지 그리고 AI를 좀 잘 쓰려면 어떻게 해야 되는지 다양한 이야기들을 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다. Hi, Sami.
Thanks for having me.
For people meeting you for the first time, can you introduce yourself and give us the quick version of your story?
Sure. So I look after the developer ecosystem team and our programs across Asia Pacific. I've been doing this for over a decade on this team at Google. It's been a privilege to be looking after programs like the Google for Startups Accelerator programs and the Google Developer Groups communities where developers come together and learn about new technologies around the world. Besides and prior to joining Google, I was a startup founder myself.
What's one emerging trend you are seeing in Southeast Asian startups that the rest of the world is underestimating?
First, I'll start with Asian startups. One of my favorite trends is this AI native cultural export trend that's happening. I think that the impression in the Western world is that Asia is a place where they can adapt the Western models and translate it and apply it here. But what we're seeing is this trend for something really exciting. I'll give you an example. Code Crayon is a startup that went through our Canggu program recently. They basically create short form dramas and they use AI to help produce and distribute. The beauty of something like Code Crayon is they've increased their global revenue since joining our program by 400%. They're not a tech company anymore. They're exporting Korean culture to the world at this point. And that's a trend we're seeing increasingly around the world. We've seen Toon Sutra in India make their Indian comics not only localized across different languages in India, but also available to a global audience. It's becoming hugely popular. In China, we had Polyverse go through our accelerator program. They've got an app called AI Mirror, which has become one of the top AI apps, AI photography apps in the world, the majority of which are outside of their domestic market, defining what content creation looks like right now from an AI photography perspective. I'd love for people to understand that trend. There's a lot of value being created here and now exported out of Asia into these other markets.
Everyone says they are using AI. I think it's true, but I think there is a huge gap between light users and power users. In your view, what do you think is the real difference between the two? And how can a small team, say 5 to 7 people in South Korea or Vietnam, adopt the mindset of shipping fast, like a 2-person team building something in a week?
That's a great question. The first part of it is how to bridge the gap in terms of the skills, the familiarity between folks using AI. I'll share an easy tip that somebody on the Google DeepMind team shared with me is use AI to improve your usage of AI. Ultimately, it comes down to our prompts. What are we writing? What are we asking the AI? And I've started developing this habit after I got this advice, which is I ask the AI first to help me improve my prompt so that I can achieve this particular outcome. And then it outputs a much better prompt than I could draft myself, taking into consideration a lot of different aspects that might be related to my prompt. Then I'm thinking about what I need in a different way. I can edit that suggestion and put that back into the AI and come out with a much higher quality response or app or whatever I'm trying to build. And that's my tip to everybody who's looking to improve their skills in general, is to ask the AI, what's the best way to ask you to do this thing? And what are some of the details you need from me to be able to do that accurately? That's the first tip. I have worked with startups, and our team has worked with startups at Google that are 2-person teams, 10-person teams, 100-person teams. AI can help build software very quickly. There's no doubt about that. We're seeing that across the industry. What a startup needs to think about is what does it take for that software to then have an impact in the world? How do you get that software into a user's hands? And in many cases, it's going to require the same type of team that we've seen in companies for decades. You're going to need a marketing team. You're going to need a sales team. And as the team gets larger, you're going to need an HR team. You're going to want somebody who's managing your finances. As any startup starts to mature into a full-blown company, we see this trend that now we need some more people to help us. Now we want to expand to more countries. We need to have a local partner on the ground, or maybe we need to start hiring our own employees in that country to help us follow all the regulatory framework and the cultural nuances of that new country. I've seen it at the early stage, being able to build out software quickly with a small team. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Depending on the stage of where you're at in getting that software out there, you might need to hire some more people.
I believe another challenge is accessibility. So AI is getting cheaper, but it can still be expensive, especially in lower income markets. In places like Vietnam, talent is strong and their economy is growing super fast, but cost can slow adoption, right? So how do you close that gap practically?
It's a great question. It's true. While the prices are coming down, or the cost of using AI is coming down rapidly, it's still a major line item for a lot of startups and companies out there as they're learning to use it more and more efficiently. I think that there are a number of ways that at Google, we look at this problem. You'll see that Gemini is not one model from Google. It comes in many different forms. We have Gemini Pro. We have fast versions of Gemini as well that are smaller in size. We have nano models that can be even embedded on devices and run locally on a device by itself. We also have open weight models. A developer or startup might decide, you know what, I'm just going to take this model. I'm going to tweak it, download it, make it just specialize in the particular field that I need to focus on. And I'm going to run it on my own server to save costs. And we see a lot of success with that. In Southeast Asia, one of the most popular local models, AI models for languages across Southeast Asian languages is what's called Sea Lion, which is based on Gemma, open weight model. Developers have a choice. They can use the right size of model to adapt to their costs or their budgets, their ability. The other thing that we see startups do is picking and choosing the models for the use case, not for the cost aspect, but also what is the particular use case. When we have startups go through our accelerator program, we try to get feedback on their experience with our models, whether it's Gemini Pro or Gemini Flash, the faster, smaller model version. The feedback we get is whenever we have an AI, the conversational bot, or an AI that has to deliver for a customer, an externally facing customer, we use Gemini because we trust the output that it will give. The guardrails, the safety, the compliance that Gemini is giving it meets their needs for their customers. But that doesn't mean they have to use Gemini Pro for everything that they're doing. They can use other models to build different segments of their software, to build other elements of their app and their business. It's also about the use case and finding the right model for their use case. And that can also help optimize your cost base.
How many developers did your programs reach last year?
When I look at the entire Asia Pacific region, we reached over 2 million developers last year.
Wow,
through
2 million.
These volunteer community efforts. It's an incredible 2 million developers in Asia alone. It's such a privilege to work with these community leaders. They're volunteers. They're excited about helping their communities succeed with new technologies. A big focus for us across the board, obviously, is AI. We want to make sure every developer is equipped with the knowledge and the skills to be able to apply AI to their products, but also apply AI to their own workflow as developers.
Oh, so what's your honest view? Is now a good time to build something in Southeast Asia? If you could give one piece of advice to someone entering the region, what would it be?
Great questions. We are seeing a definite evolution of the startup ecosystem in Southeast Asia and APAC more broadly as well. If you look at the last 10 years, for example, I think we went from maybe cash on delivery is king to digital payments and digital infrastructure being the default, the standard. I think that was a very big infrastructure bump up to get the ecosystem ready for this next wave of startups. In Southeast Asia, the seed stage, capital stage, very strong. I think that's been healthy and consistently healthy. But what we'd like to see in Southeast Asia is a more consistent, steady pace of exits. The ingredients are right. We've got the talent. Now, this is for APAC in general, but for Southeast Asia, because you asked specifically, I'd say Southeast Asia has the talent. We have a number of companies that have reached the unicorn status in Southeast Asia. We've seen a few exits. What that is going to do is create this virtuous cycle of those founders or those employees who've done well in that environment, then go out, invest in new startups, build out new startups. So we're just at that stage, call it the adolescence stage of growth, to build more and more companies out of this region that can stand the test of time, that are more profitable as well, rather than generating user growth or top line growth, transaction value. They're focusing on revenue. We're seeing that in our data as well. That is a heartening thing. I'd certainly encourage startups in this region to see those trends and to be confident that they're in a place where this is possible. Southeast Asia is an earlier stage than that. We're seeing a lot more unicorns in places like China and India, where the funding up to the Series B level is much more robust, despite the capital crunch that we're seeing around the world right now. You do have to be resilient. You do have to be resilient around this. Instead of talking about unicorns in Asia, we talk about camels. Camels are those that can withstand the breaks in capital funding that happen, or withstand the need to adapt their businesses to new regulatory frameworks as they expand to the next country and to the next country. Those are some of the trends I see in Asia. Is possible. We see it all the time here. Successful companies growing their valuations, raising significant funds. We've had a few graduates from our Canggu program that have done that. If you're familiar with Ridden, they went through our Canggu program a couple of years ago. They raised $70 million in a Series B fundraise after they went through the program. We try to support all of our startups to achieve that kind of success, especially as they're going abroad. The one piece of advice, the area that I would focus is, don't think of yourself as a local developer in your country. Because let's say you're based in Singapore, you're based in Seoul. Don't think of yourself as a Seoul-based developer trying to export to the world. The mindset we need to have is think of yourself as a global developer, right? That happens to be based in Singapore or happens to be based in Seoul. But if you adopt this global mindset, you're immediately thinking about building more universal solutions that can support a much larger audience and has the potential to grow, scale, and exit in any fashion you may desire in the future. The likelihood increases way higher when you think from that perspective.
Wow.
So that's my advice.
Thank you so much, Sami. So do you want to share a quick plug for the next Canggu cohort?
Thank you for mentioning that. I will make a shameless plug. So the program is now opening up its 8th cohort. The program has seen over 600 startups go through it since 2019. We've seen incredible growth, over $120 million of funds raised to date for these startups. And we're so proud of the startups who've gone through the program. So some very notable startups. We even have some of them go through our accelerators afterwards to continue our partnership with them, like Blue Signum had done a few years ago. If you're interested to learn more, please search about it. Feel free to reach out to me. And we hope to see your startup followers join our program soon.
여러분 어떠셨나요? AI에 막 입문하고 계신 분들, 또는 AI에 어떻게 시작하지? 좀 두려움을 갖고 계신 분들, 또는 AI로 어떤 사업 기회를 만들어 볼까, 아시아에서 해볼 만한 거 없을까, 이런 고민하시는 분들께는 유익한 대화였지 않을까, 그런 생각이 듭니다. 앞으로 이렇게 종종 팟캐스트 형태로 제가 생각할 때 되게 도움이 될 만한 인사이트를 가지신 분들, 또는 이 채널에 과거에 나오셨지만 또 근황이 궁금할 만한 그런 창업자분들, 이런 분들 모셔가지고 약간 정기적으로 이렇게 스토리와 인사이트를 전하는 그런 프로그램을 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 이런 화상 인터뷰 폼의 시리즈 이름도 지어야 되는데요. 여러분께서 이렇게 뭔가 아이디어를 주시면은 저희가 소정의 상품 또는 기타 베네핏을 한번 드려보도록 하겠습니다.